RFAs?
Yeah. We have. So we have a number of guys and we have a few guys that we're still in conversation with. So, we are still having conversations with Tomasino and Dewar, and the rest I think we will non-qualify. And we'll qualify Ponomarev as well, just to maintain his rights. I know he's signed in Russia, but they'll have the 3 years or however long to develop there, and we'll just keep a close watch on him.
And regarding your pending UFAs, you'll just allow them to go tomorrow.
Yeah, we just think there's we're with our current strategy, we're gonna see what's out there and see where we're at. Yeah.
How active do you expect to be tomorrow as far as signings? What kind of signings are you looking to add?
I think it's like we've discussed. They're not going to be the long range, big money guys in their 30s. It just doesn't fit at all with what we're going to do. And even if we could transition by the time this group here in the previous groups of draft picks and younger players are coming through, we don't want to have those types of deals at the back end. So we'll stay away from those. We've got lots of trade conversations on the go for all different types of players. We'll see the RFAs. You can start to talk to RFAs tonight at 7:00 from other teams, so we'll get a sense for what the market is for them and what their expectations are, because those are generally younger players that fit more with where we're at. So we'll get to that point. We'll start to have those conversations tonight here between Vuki, myself, and Spez, start to touch base with them. But the types of players that you could expect are not dissimilar from last summer. I would be surprised if unless they were RFAs or trade, that we would do long range deals with players. But we've got a number of players in mind that we think we can give good opportunity to, and they won't be the 1 year contracts, maybe 2 or 3, where we can see if they can be a long term part of what we're trying to do here and be a part of it for when the team is back in contention.
Kyle, sort of a similar question would ask those 3 first rounders, but from your standpoint, how important is it to the greater construct of the team to see those guys develop at relatively the same rate? Or is it? Like, is each guy their own guy? Do they have to come up at the same time?
We would love it if we could get them all to October 7th or whatever it was going to be, and they were all ready to roll. I think in development, it's so different for each one of them, and each of them has a different path. I mean, Will's already in college at Michigan. Bill's a late birthday, and he's got the ability to go, he can go back to major junior. We've got to go through the CBA and whether those changes are now or later for the rumored stuff with the CHL, NHL agreement and how that may impact things and things of that nature. And then Ben, obviously hugely talented guy. It's going to be depending on how, what he learns in the next week, how he takes to strength and conditioning, power, and then how he's able to manifest that come training camp. So they're all very different types of players and people. It would be fantastic if they all debuted on the same day and then played for 20 years with the Penguins. The Penguins have been pretty fortunate in having something like that in the past, but we have to do what's best for each of them individually and make sure that they're on the right path. But it's obviously from a very broad perspective, their development is the most important thing in the short run for us, for these young guys.
Did you find that all the picks that you gathered at the deadline in the spring carried the cachet and the currency that you wanted by the time it got to draft day, or did those picks not have enough pop and the maneuverability that you were trying to use them for?
Well, I think to move up in the first round, there was just no appetite for any team to move. Really, to get up in there, it would have been 11 and 12. And then throughout, but to answer your question more deeply, we were able to use a lot of those picks to move up. We moved up using the pick from the Beauvillier trade to go up and get Will Horkoff, which we paired with the pick that we got to trade down. So throughout the day, I think that that was present. I think in terms of actually trading for players, I don't think we ever expected that the picks in the 25 draft would see us trade for players. It'll be the future draft picks that teams are going to more want as we get into this next few days and throughout the summer. So I think they did enable us to move up to get Will from the Beauvillier trade, and which was hugely important for us and valuable for us.
Kyle, for so many years you've heard people say, well, he needs to work on his skating or he needs to work on this or that. What have you found, just in your experience with the emphasis so much on development, where you've actually seen really good examples of players who started here and ended up here by virtue of all the things that you're doing?
I think the greatest example I've ever seen on the skating side, Staggy, is Mason Marchment. We signed him to an American League deal as an overage in Toronto, and I think he had the quote that you can look up, which is that he needed to learn to skate at 21 years old coming into pro hockey. And we didn't play him for a long stretch of the first year because he needed to build up the foundation. And, you see the type of player he's turned into. It's in terms of, we traded him in Toronto. It was I think about it every day in terms of being a mistake, big one, probably one of the biggest for me. But he would be the player that I think of in terms of that's grown the most and developed the most in a one specific area that comes up. And then there's any number of examples here, like to use it to kind of focus on in the recent past, a player that's a little bit older and how development, you got some of these guys here are 17. If you go to like guys that are 26, 27, Joona Koppanen last year, he came in from Boston. The first year was okay. Last year, he really deeply bought into the developmental program and the skating program, combined with the performance program in Wilkes. And objectively speaking, his skating improved like 10 to 12% in terms of his speed and overall power. And we brought him back for another year because he's made those major gains in that area. So, there's that. There's the defensive piece, which is, at the beginning when I started, we focused so much on skill and offense and playmaking, and that's been I've had to adapt my view of that because and how are we going to improve these guys as defensive players, and so that's been a major focus, and you'll see it here this week. And then it's you look every year and watch the playoffs every year, and the ability to go back and retrieve a puck under immense pressure is hugely important. So we've started to build that in as a key centerpiece of everything we want and part of our program, and you'll see that throughout the development camp. It's not the most exciting stuff probably to come and watch as a fan or media member, but the guys are going to have to develop quickly a way to go back, collect rim pucks under immense pressure if we're going to win. So we're trying to build those key tenets into it. So I could talk about the development stuff for a long time, as you see, but yeah.
Kind of the possibility of trades. I know we asked you about Brian Rust, Ricardo Raquel, Eric Carlson going back to the deadline, exit interview days. Has anything changed on that front in terms of if anyone ever expresses interest in them?
Yeah, I know more about the free agent market because of the calls we get on our veteran guys of teams saying, the market is nuts. We might have more interest in doing a deal or a trade. So we're going to evaluate everything. We're going to do what's best for the Penguins, but I mean, in one of those players' cases specifically, I mean, it means a lot to the team. He's been a part of the team for the 15 years since he was drafted. So unless it's something that blows us away in terms of what it returns, and that it can very easily be looked at to help us return to contention, that'd be a tough one. But we've got lots of calls on him. He's a great player, signed, but he's also a massive member of the Penguins. So we'll continue to be open for business, but the price will be very high.